its own natural way that I'm leaning forward and talking to him.
Sure.
We were talking about how, okay, I'm going to start all over. Do you think I can see all the way to Stamford?
That's just beginning.
It's time. What's the name of the camp? Why, in the midst of a successful career, as an architectural historian and as a curator, a recorder of other, and an analyzer of other people's work, did you decide at the old age of 34 to return to school and to become an architect yourself?
It was desperation, I tell you. I wasn't satisfied with being a critic. So I galloped off to New Orleans to work with Huey Long. I wanted the most revolutionary thing I could think of, to thumb my nose at the world and go out and gallop out, and I would solve the world's troubles. Well, needless to say, I was hopeless, and it was no good. Nothing happened.
What did you do with Huey Long?
Nothing. I just...
What were you meant to do?
Exactly. He said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'll do anything. He says, well, I don't need you. Quite rightly. No, it was one of the stupidest things I ever did. I mean, it was revolution for revolution's sake, without an end, without a purpose, without a point. So I came back with tail between my legs, and there I sat in New York, nothing to do, and miserable because I didn't know where life was leading me. And I knew something creative had to happen. I could either have to reform the world, or I'd have to stick my finger in somewhere. You just can't sit around writing articles about dead architects, you know. I mean, you really can't. So I said, I gotta go back to school, because only that way could I get into architecture. So I went back, but it was really the hardest day of my life, was taking that train to Boston. And then, of course, it was lovely, because the kids were very respectful. The book I had written was used in the international style, was used in the school itself, so I didn't have to take the history courses.
Did they ask you to teach it?
No, they, thank God, didn't do that. But no, I was learning architecture.
But when you first arrived, were you dismissed in any way as a well-to-do dilettante?
Nobody ever uses that insult, well-to-do, thank goodness. People do have some grace. But they did, they wondered what I was doing there, of course. But then they got very, very respectful of my gray hairs. You see. Well, I was an old man to them. Dad comes back to school sort of attitude, which I found very pleasant.
How would you characterize that period in your life?
It was wonderful. As soon as I got going, oh, I enjoyed it very much, because the whole world opened up to me. You see, I found that I could make a design, and teachers would have to take it seriously, whether they really wanted to or not. Oh no, being a student is one of the great things in life. You've always been a student, haven't you?
I certainly have.
Sure, it's the only way to do. Still learning.
But once you had that opportunity, you decided to build. And I guess we are seated here in one of your very first significant...
Not the first. Oh, I built a house in Cambridge while I was a student. Then right after the war, I went to war immediately. And then as I got out of it in 1946, right after the war, I decided to build a house in the country and bought this land and worked on it for a couple of years. And in 48 I built it and finished in 49. But this was the first, yes. It's been the first ever since.
And we are, of course, talking about the glass house. And you have said that the glass house was a misnomer. What would you prefer this house to have been called?
Glass house was a misnomer. I never liked the title, but I can't remember now why I didn't.
What would you have called it? Or if you could rename it now, what would you call it?
Now, I'd call it the Glass House, because like all names that exist for 30 years, it's got into my mind. It's the Glass House. Yeah.
I guess with everyone else as well.
Yes.
For a very long while, you ran what could be fairly called a salon at this Glass House. What was the most interesting gathering you ever had here?
The most interesting gathering I ever had, and I did love to have students from Yale come over, and we'd sit and just talk about architecture. But the best meeting I ever had was with my peers. I asked them all up. I asked I.M. Pei, Gordon Bunshaft, Paul Rudolph, One or two others.
When did this take place?
1936, 7.
No, it would be after the house.
Oh, yeah, this house was, oh no, it must have been 40, pardon me, 50s.
56.
56.
Let me ask the question again. When did that take place?
In 1956. And the guys were all working, and I asked them to bring each of them a scheme that then we'd all discuss. It's a dirty trick, I realize now. But with 2 days, I put them up at the inns around here or in the...
And they all came?
They all came.
And how did they react to this house?
We never mentioned it. This was the background of the conference, and we just talked about each other's work. But of course, at the end, we split, not better friends than we had when we arrived.
Not better friends?
No, indeed.
The divisions were too great?
Yes, the individual pride. Architects are like ballet dancers, you know, they're hopelessly arrogant and insular and self-indulgent. Opera singers are like that too. But architecture's worse, only they conceal it a little because they have to sell all the time. See, every time I see somebody coming, I wonder how much money he has and whether he's apt to build a big building or a small building or no building. If he's not going to build any building, I'm not very nice. Okay? But as it goes up the range, up to David Rockefeller or something, I get nicer and nicer. I'm very nice to Barbara Lee Diamonstein, you see, because you never know.
Oh, I like that. I have the same ambition, Philip.
You do?
Yes.
You want to be loved? What is it?
No, I'm not loved. I want you to build this wonderful house for me.
Oh, great. That's right. You're one of my great non-client clients.
It's true, but that
right.
Counts for a lot, just discussing it.
Well, I know, and I'm designing this wonderful house right now. It looks like an octopus. The successor I'll build for you.
And what will we call that?
Well, it depends on what it looks like, a lizard or an octopus, or the buildings
I'd
have
like a
to have
bird
names.
myself, a dove.
A dove. Well, that
Or a
dove house-
Spielvogel.
Spielvogel, why not? The Spielvogel will be built in the green pastures of East Hampton.
Nice. Let's talk about those architects when they visited here. We know about the reaction of Frank Lloyd Wright to this house and of Mies. Can you tell us something about that?
About those two, it's very clear. Frank Lloyd Wright was building a house nearby, so he came over here to visit this, by then, notorious house. And he walked in the door, and he had a hat on. He always wore a hat. And he said, he wouldn't take his hat off. And he said, "Philip, am I indoors or am I out? Do I keep my hat on or do I take it off?" That was his insult for building a house that was outdoorsy, that didn't have that sense of shelter, the broad eaves that you have to have for a real sense of house. It didn't have any anchoring fireplace burning logs. So he felt very uncomfortable here. So we battled.
Part of the architectural lore is your famous response to him, not at that moment, but in evaluating his work.
Oh, you mean when I said that nasty thing about him? It gets quoted more than anything else I've ever said, and of course I was totally wrong.
What did you say?
Well, don't forget when I said it. I have to, because this is so embarrassing. I said it when he was between careers.
What actually did you say, and under what circumstances?
I said to the world in general, but it got quoted. I don't know where I said it. Mr. Wright is the greatest architect, greatest American architect of the 19th century. But as awful as that sounds today, he was not an architect of our century at that time, 1932. See, he lost his career in the 20s. Now, anything to do you can't name a building he built in the 20s. And then all of a sudden, 1934, he started to bloom. How was I going to know that? But it was one of the stupider errands because, of course, he's the greatest architect of the 20th century.
And by the end of his career, did you make amends?
Oh, yes. He wrote to somebody, I'm going to go to New York and make amends. No, he didn't use that word. Make up to Russell Hitchcock and Philip Johnson because they've always annoyed me so. And why should I leave things like that around? I'm too old for that kind of thing. He was 88, my age at that time. And he did come to New York and he did call me. I answered the phone one morning He says, guess who this is? And I said, well, if it weren't totally impossible, I'd say it was Frank Lloyd Wright, you know. And he said it was. And we had dinner, and very great friends ever since. Ever since, the last years of his life.
Do you have any scores you want to settle?
Oh, I don't consider myself old yet. He's not too, I'm not.
I didn't say old.
No, but he felt that he was too old to carry those grudges, and he ought to make up with people that he fought with.
I was thinking you might be wise enough.
You got me, let's go on.
Okay.
Too young for that kind of thing.
Okay, it's true you are. But I didn't mean it in the way that
no, I know.
you did. We talked about Frank Lloyd Wright not being part of his generation. Given your lengthy career, do you feel that you are a part of any generation of architects?
No.
Or do you span them all?
I span them all because that's my interest to do that. I don't have any arrogance or claim to architectural genius of any period. I like to find new kids. I like to find new forms of architecture. A lot of people say I'm just a grasshopper jumping around. My admirers say that I see all these things developing in the world. The world moves very quickly, and it's architecture not to move with it. All the great artists could move around at their pleasure. If they stand still, if a painter stands absolutely still and doesn't change or move, he's dead from the neck up. Well, I think it's much more interesting to dive in and find the newer forms that are coming. I'm building now my last building. Who knows?
No.
Up on the hill, well, next to that.
Yes.
Up on the hill for the visitor center.
This is at this estate. You're
Yeah,
going
up on the place here at the front door, and it stands up. It's dug a hole. You saw the hole when you came in, and it's going to be very, very strange. I'll invite you back.
I would look forward to that. Would you care to describe what you have in mind for this visitor center?
Yes, it's a new kind of form where everything looks, well, some people call it an iceberg. Other people call it, no, you can't see it from here. It's up behind the trees. But it's all weird, and the walls don't go up straight. They either tilt this way or counter.
And how would you describe that? Is it a deconstructionist building?
No, oh no. Deconstruction was a good freeing word, but like all words, it didn't have any meaning. But it was very good to have a word like that, because then everybody gives something to talk about.
Well, you talked about how your supporters would describe your work and that limited band of detractors. How would you prefer to characterize yourself?
As a far-seeing critic of the era that could see movements coming and hop on the bandwagon. I've never claimed, nor would I ever, that I was a good architect, because I don't think that I'm an original genius like Frank Lloyd Wright or Mies van der Rohe. They are the giants of their century, and as far as I can see, there's nobody right now to replace them. There's some wonderful kids coming up, but we don't know yet. But those form givers only happen once or twice. That's a pretty good century. When there are two you can count on. The Renaissance, of course, was an exceptional period of concentration of genius, but that's very rare. In the 19th century, it was Schinkel and Sohn. I can't think quickly of a next person. Well, so 19th century was a great century. The 20th century was a great century. I hope the next century will be, but I've been watching things more. I'm a figure in the arts rather than an architect, although I'm passionate about beautiful designs that I like anyhow.
Is the glass house, this wonderful estate, could you characterize it, or let me start that again. Would it be fair to characterize the glass house and this remarkable estate that you have created as a Baedeker, a guidebook to your architectural musings over a 40-year period?
Make it 50.
50?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
It is a 50-year period. Should I redo the question? Sure. Would it be fair to characterize the glass house and its remarkable surround as a Baedeker to your architectural musings over the last 50 years?
A beautiful description. No one could ever do it better. And that's exactly what I meant it to be. It's an accretion, it's a continuing work of art, more or less, that it took 50 years to do. And it developed and changed and added, so it's become much, much bigger. It was a 5-acre estate, now it's a 40-acre. So you have to have elbow room, as you found out making your own houses. You're never going to have enough land. And so finally, all the pieces have not come together, but they make a strange kind of whole.
I can recall reading Vincent Scully in describing this place, and he characterizes the glass house and likens it to the two other great monuments in American life, Taliesin West and Monticello. That's very exalted company to be a part of. And he talks about it as a remarkable expression of the complicated love affair that Americans have with their land. Is that fair or accurate to describe?
It's undeserved, but I hope it's fair. He doesn't really like the house very much. And some of his castigations in Architectural Digest were very painful.
I'm really talking about his description of the process as a complicated love affair that Americans have with their land.
Yes, I like that part.
I
It
do
is a
too.
love affair with the land, and we do have that in this country, and no other country can have it because they don't have the land. And so since Jefferson, sainted forerunner, the land has been what we've developed. When Mies came to this country, he never did really grasp the land the way Frank Lloyd Wright, Jefferson, myself do. You just can't help it, it's in the blood.
This house, this glass house,
There's one place out there that's going to be a big one. Okay, sorry. It's gone.
It's good to make breaks anyhow. Gives her a chance to find out what she's going to say.
I want to talk about the land for a moment. This house stands so psychologically open to the trees and to its relationship to other buildings. How would you compare your experience of designing the landscape with your experience of designing the buildings here?
Well, a lot of people believe that I'm a much better landscape architect than I am an architect. But
What do you think?
well, I see what they mean. That the situation, the site, my first thought in taking up a pencil is the site of this house. I mean, I instinctively draw the cliff going up the shelf where the house stands and then the hill going on up. Instead of Mies would draw the details of the corners or some essential part of a building. I just draw the landscape. So it is an instinctual thing because I was brought up in landscape like this. And somehow I want to make it like the original landscape in my home in Ohio. We looked down over an artificial pond, just like this, but they didn't have the great Connecticut landscape of the hills.
But in some small measure, you've replicated
I've
your
replicated
childhood.
my childhood memories of the childhood house. You can't help it. Frank Lloyd Wright always did. He kept repeating the prairie, the looks of Wisconsin landscape.
Would you say, since I think other than this splendid marble table, there is nothing else in this house that you have designed in terms of the interior?
That's right.
Mies did all the furniture.
All furniture.
There's a new lamp.
One new lamp. I like to have the different periods showing because nobody makes a lamp as well as Philippe Starck.
So that's your most recent acquisition.
Yes, it's the only one that shows in this house anyhow.
So other than this marble, this granite table that you have designed, you have not decorated the interior of the house other than works of art. But you have, so to speak, decorated the landscape with buildings and with landscape design.
Yes, you're right. I haven't done any interior design except to arrange the furniture and pick the rugs and the curtains. They're very special.
They are.
Years and years of work. You'll find that out if you live with windows and things. It takes longer to do the curtains and does all the rest of the house put together. But yes, I have designed the landscape, but mostly negatively. This kind of landscape is really negative landscaping. From here, you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. You couldn't see that big oak tree there. You couldn't see to that end of that wall because it was solid forest. So by doing away with the forest, nature is really to be beaten after all.
But you can never vanquish nature. Where
Well,
did
you
you
can
get the
try.
temerity to try?
The courage that all landscape architects have. A tree out of place is a weed. So no matter how nice the tree is, if it's not in the right spot, you cut it down. A thing I learned from, of all people, John D. Rockefeller Jr.
How?
He cut too many trees at Kaikut, the famous house that's just
Yes.
open to the public on the Hudson. And the family was outraged, you see. And he defended. He said, well, you've got to have landscaping. You've got to be able to see the view that you built the house for. And they said he's just a tree butcher. Well, he was right and they were wrong. So I'm known around in this town as a tree butcher, not as a landscape architect.
What is your vision of the ideal natural landscape?
Well, the word natural is wrong first.
It's an unnatural landscape.
Unnatural, natural landscape. The word nature, as long as you capitalize it, has nothing to do with nature in lowercase. Because that's evil and nasty and horrid in the raw. But when you tame it and cut the grass and open up vistas and have a repoussoir, that is, you put trees in the foreground, then your trees and accent trees in the middle ground, and then you off into a copse at the horizon, that's landscape architecture all of a sudden. But it's mostly done by cutting. In other words, I wasn't doing a capability brown in English sense, where all the trees were planted.
But very often, your inspiration has been likened to the English garden or
Oh, yeah.
picturesque style. How have you emulated this style of landscape design on the estate?
It's a little different from the English because I had here a wonderful cage of stone walls left over from the 18th century. So I left them as sort of a basic theme setter, sort of a reticulation of the stone walls in the fields. So that gave me a sense of scale in the distance. There's still stone walls everywhere you see that you see over to the next
Which are
stone wall.
historically relevant here.
Historically relevant, which interests me less, but they're visually relevant and how. And so within the fields of the old New England-sized fields, I could leave things or add things. That wall there was the original wall. All I did was to raise it.
It's higher than it would have
Yes,
been.
yes.
And the height of the walls in the distance would
Are
be
real.
characteristic
That's right.
of how they were here. So first you did your demarcations in terms
That's
of
right.
space,
Yes.
and then you
I
embellished
carried on
and
that.
adorned the space?
Yeah, I removed some stone walls that crossed the line where I wanted to look, and I've added a few. But you have to play with the old architecture as well as with the real nature.
How is your choice of art in this house and surround affected not only by the very modern design of this building, but the landscape that is a part of the outdoors that is inescapably indoors?
That's a very complex and not well phrased question.
No,
now.
it isn't. I'd like to restate it if I may. But thank you. I admire your capacity not only to answer, but to frame the question. But you
Yeah.
are quite right. Let us talk. How is your choice of art affected?
Well, maybe this is a good opportunity because we're towards the end of the cassette. And,
You want to turn? you have a television set here?
No,
Why not?
I don't like television.
If it is for a man who is so current, so up to the moment, in practically every one of your tastes, interests, and appetites, how come you're not on this information superhighway with us?
I think it's highly exaggerated, the importance of the superhighway. There is no substitute for personal contact. And they did invent the movies, that's too bad, but it's done now.
You like film, though, don't you?
Oh, I don't watch movies or film, no. No, I like art. You know, I like architecture. I like to wander around buildings. Another thing that film can't do, and words much less, and superhighways don't help your eye. I like the eye that gets changed as it goes processionally, my favorite word, through a building. The building comes up around you. You can't do that in flat films. You cannot take a film of a building. You can't take a photograph also. You can only experience architecture, and that's the big drawback of our art.
So you're saying the only way to see a building is to see a building.
Unfortunately.
And as I am looking out at this landscape, you see very clearly your notion of the processional, how it leads the eye in every direction. There is a processional that takes place.
Mm-hmm. You see the perspective, the senses, well, the English landscapers knew that. Oh, the French knew that. Look at the Petit Trianon, one of the finest buildings in France. You sit at one window looking that way, and you get a perfect picture of a landscape. You do the same on the other side of the building, but at the corner, it's all filled with bushes. It's very interesting to study the Petit Trianon.
How is your choice of art affected by your study of architecture? For example, the Petit Trianon, Hadrian's Villa, and by modern design as well.
It's because they're very close. Art and architecture are, in a way, twins, inseparable twins. Frank Gehry's the only one that likes art as much as I do, but we continually amazed at people when architects don't like art, like Frank Lloyd Wright. But he did like art in a way. He liked Japanese houses. God save his mark, but he really didn't like Picasso. And it's hard for me to understand.
But Picasso would not be relevant to his architecture.
You'll have to stop that rustling. I can't stand it. Sit down and don't move.
Yes.
If you have to pee, pee in your pants.
Let's come back to the, how is your choice of art affected by the very modern design of this house?
Well, it's funny because the only picture in the house is a Poussin, reputed Poussin, which has the same landscape, by the way, as we have here, leading off into the landscape itself. But Poussin was, of course, a modern painting in the sense that Picasso liked him, Cézanne liked him, I like him.
And so did Alfred Barr?
So did Alfred Barr, and how? He was the one that introduced me to this particular Poussin, which we found in a little shop in Madison Avenue. But we've always found it very modern. For instance, I tried to have a Franz Klein or somebody that you and I know, but it didn't work. A modern picture here just went to pieces. It wasn't the right background.
Is your selection of the Poussin an attempt to bring the landscape indoors as well, or is it meant to as a guide, a map, to what you have tried to replicate in a later period?
It's going to be a danger in this house. People are going to make myths about it that sound very plausible. And let's scotch that one right now. And nice of you to ask. I bought that painting 10 years before I built this house. I had it in my house in Boston, in Cambridge, and I had it on a wall by itself, of course. It made the living room of that house. I never thought I was going to have a house, but until 1948, when I found the ideal place for it, then I decorated the room around it.
But you chose to keep the Poussin as contrasted to the original, another piece of art that was originally connected to this house, the Lipschitz, the Jock Lipschitz sculpture, was
Right.
close to the house, and as the estate expanded, its role diminished.
That's
Can you
right.
tell us about that?
Scale. When you have a restricted hortus conclusus, rounded by walls, and a statue like the Kolbe at Mies van der Rohe's pavilion is made a great piece of sculpture, but it is not. But it looks great because it's so well placed by Mies van der Rohe. But if you put it out in this lawn here, it goes all to pieces. For instance, I always believed in sculpture in the environment, but the more I had here, the less it fitted. So you notice there's very little sculpture now left.
I thought the trees, the buildings were meant to do that.
That's right. And no sculpture is big enough, except a building, to hold the landscape down. Everything gets puny. It takes the best Lipschitz in the world and makes it into a little stick. So I traded it in, as the word is.
For what?
Put the money in my pocket.
I don't believe that. You bought something else.
I bought a lot of other things, sure.
On the subject of myths, are there any that relate to the glass house that you'd care to reinforce, or any you'd care to demolish?
I have to hear the myth before I can demolish it. There are a lot of myths.
Well, there are some things that are often repeated.
Often repeated is an unlivable house, for instance. Well, that's an odd thing to say to a man that for 50 years, 45 years, has lived here. What's unlivable about it? A place to eat, place to cook, it's a few things that I'm in a place for, but
Like what?
screwing, my dear. Very simple. People that live in, this wonderful phrase in this magazine didn't like me, that people that live in glass houses should ball in the basement. Very right. You don't sit around here having sexual intercourse, see. So I built another little house.
A more private
Much
dwelling.
more private, and I decorated.
In fact, no windows, I noticed.
No windows. Nice door with a good lock on it. And the room is decorated in soft pink colors, and the dimmers are right at your hand. So you can make it any type of lighting you desire.
So you're suggesting that's a more invitational space than this is?
Very sexy. This is not. This is awesome, as Vince puts it. Terrible, he said. It's great space, you see. Terrifying. I forget, he uses that word all the time. But this is a place on stage. This is a place for the world. This is a place where you, to see and be seen, is to say, what a wonderful landscape, or what a beautiful day.
Is this your public forum on a private scale?
Yes, I'm an exhibitionist, a ham. That's part of the reason I get along, if you can say what I do getting along, is that I'm a good ham. I love to talk. I love to show things off. I used to love that. That's why
Why isn't that a good communicator?
Yes, I'm a communicator, just like a certain president. Thank you very much. No, not the one I admire most. But it's good in a way when it works. If I can influence architecture in directions that I think are right, then I'm doing what I like to do. But I don't know.
You've said that some people say that this is an unlivable house. What do most guests comment on when they come here? What was the most interesting or curious response you've ever gotten to the house?
The wife of our local minister said, "But Mr. Johnson, I couldn't live here." To which my answer was fitting, "Madam, I haven't invited you." But that was the nicest comment. And from Frank Lloyd Wright's, of course, it's immortal.
Are there any disadvantages, other than the one you just mentioned, to living in a glass house? Is it noisy?
No. Is it hot? Yes, except you open the doors and you have through draft. It's not hot now.
No, it's wonderfully...
And it actually works like a Venturi action. You get more breeze in here than you do out there.
How do you explain that?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but if you narrow things down, it goes faster. Whatever breeze there is goes faster when it goes through a narrow aperture. It's called a Venturi. I don't know what it's called. But anyhow, it works. Well, and then people said, oh, you can't live in the house because think of the insects. All I can say is, what insects? We have a few decorative dragonflies in the corner, But that's nature.
What are the most surprising or satisfying experiences for what are the most satisfying or surprising experiences in the house other than the obviously spectacular panorama of nature? What do you enjoy most about living here?
Well, what I enjoy most is what's perfectly obvious, is camping out, but camping out en luxe and with pleasant walls around me. I don't have to have the insects climbing up my pant leg. And so just living here is the best thing.
In the evolution of the estate, as you have experimented with different forms and shapes and buildings, would you consider any of them less successful than you had in mind?
If I did, I wouldn't say so, because I noticed that journalists and everybody only like the negative, because the negative sells more newspapers. Look at, well, many things in the newspapers that double the tragedies, but don't talk about the good things.
So you wouldn't want to perpetuate, and I agree with that, anything negative. But I always suspected if there was something that you didn't like, you would have gotten rid of it.
I did.
What was it?
The constriction was that the house was a 2-acre lot, and I was getting the terror that somebody built a house and look right back at me. But that's the stupidity of an architect that didn't know his own strength or his own mind. That's the stupidity. The stupidity was not to buy enough land to build a place on.
Well, you didn't have this estate in mind when you started.
Oh, no, but
Were you originally building this so that only one person was going to live here? Was that what you had in mind?
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, yeah, it's a one-man house with a few added amenities.
Is there any building in the entire world that you wish could be part of this park?
No, if I did, I'd build it myself, wouldn't I? The only thing I'm looking forward to, which you have to look forward, is the new building up on the road, because that's going to be by far the finest in its modest way.
Why would you say that?
Because it breaks groundbreaking. This house is very traditional. This is a classic house.
It is now traditional.
No, it was at the time. People didn't see it. Only people like Vince Scully or what's his name? Never mind.
Penobscot.
Jack Robertson, the classical architect, you see, that sees the classical Jeffersonian part of the house. I mean, it's symmetrical. It is, the doors are in the middle. The doors are simply placed. I mean, there's no tricks or trade. I'm not trying to float a building off in the air the way Mies was at the same time, you see. So I'm always conservative.
Well, the materials are all very permanent here too, and
Conservative.
and conservative and distinguished by the choice of material.
That's right. That was what I want to do. I don't think conservatism is necessarily a curse word. It's, in this case, it's certainly very well.
What was Mies's reaction to the house? Was he pleased? Was he upset at the similarities to his own glass house?
Upset is the word. He hated it.
Why?
I don't know. He never told me.
Not flattered?
Well, that kind of imitation he thought would flatter him. But the differences were so striking and so strong that he couldn't make anything out of it. Oh, he came here one night to spend the night in the guest house, and before the evening was over, he said, "Get me out of this house. I will not spend the night anywhere near it." So we all laughed, you know, we had a couple of martinis.
Did he mean it?
Well, that's what I thought, that he didn't mean it. But the next he said, "Philip, you didn't hear me. I will not spend a night in this house."
Did he leave?
I had to call the neighbor and have a place for him to sleep.
Where did he go?
A house I'd built over on the other side of town for a client.
Has anyone else ever asked you, has anyone ever asked you to design a glass house for them?
No, it's interesting. No one has ever wanted a glass house. Well, they're considered impractical, and for children they are. I mean, let's face it, this is an eccentric's hideaway, isn't it? Hideaway, rather. Showaway. And, but it isn't a house that you could make general.
Someone told me a story just last week, and I wonder if you could confirm or deny its accuracy, that Henry Ford had a house on Gin Lane in Southampton and wanted an extension to that house.
That's right.
And that you were the architect of that extension?
Yeah, I was.
No one ever points that out.
Why should they? It's not very good.
As it turns out, it was Anne Ford Johnson who told me about it. And I went by to see it last weekend. Could you describe that? I've never seen it in any reference to your work. I've never seen it published anyplace. And why don't you like it?
They're very strange clients, needless to say. And Anne especially prickly. Henry was not really around much. And Anne said she wanted to tack on to this really ugly house. And so all I could do was what was on my mind at the time, which was a house for the John Seniors here in New Canaan, which was a several level glass pavilion. You see. So inappropriately, I stuck these glass rooms onto the house, which only made the house uglier.
So there is this glass column that is attached to sort of a beachfront cottage.
Yeah. And it's still there, I guess.
It certainly is.
Isn't that funny?
And when she said that, I thought she had the wrong architect, frankly. But I went by to see it the other day and decided that is a Philip Johnson, but I was not exactly certain. Why isn't it ever described anywhere?
Not worth it. It's not a piece of architecture that I care to continue.
When was that done? Early 60s, late 50s?
No, late 50s. Mrs. Ford, Mama, was one of those grand ladies. And she told her son, you know, if you want to be avant-garde, if you really want to be with it, son, go and get Philip Johnson to do your house. So I designed a beautiful house on the dunes next to that house.
Right next to it, there's another house?
No, I didn't build it. That's what happened. They decided then they didn't want to spend that kind of money, or they weren't going to be in Southampton that long, and that's what they said. Maybe they thought it was too avant-garde, but it was a good house.
Did you ever use it anyplace else?
I use it all the time, various
bits and pieces.
Yes, I use it on the Hudson River, a house looking out over the Hudson.
You've said that stairs, chairs, and city squares are the hardest thing to design. You've designed stairs, you've designed city squares. Have you ever designed a chair?
I did. The ugliest thing you ever saw.
I doubt that.
I couldn't get up and out of it. I gave it to the bars, and they sat in it for Alfred Bar. They sat in it for a decade, and then tactfully put it in the maid's room or wherever.
Where is it now?
Oh, I hope it doesn't exist. It's harder to get rid of your chairs. Oh no, I had another wonderful example. I built a nice chair for a house in Minnesota. And Nelson Rockefeller said, would you do my dining room? So I took this chair and I said, is that all right? He said, perfectly marvelous. So I built 15, 18 of them for his dining room. And the end of that was marvelous. He had to entertain a lot of labor leaders and tough people that leaned back in their chairs when they smoked their post-prandial cigar. Only they all broke all the chairs into smithereens and collapsed on the floor, hurting his chances. So he was a little bit annoyed.
So it's your chair that stood between him and the presidency, you think?
He had lots of other problems.
Who was the most compelling patron that you ever had, other than yourself?
Oh, I think Sam Bronfman. No, that can't be true, because he was Mies's patron. Oh, the Butts, the chairman of the board of AT&T. He said, I want the best building in New York, and I don't want any copy of the old Seagram building. I want a new kind of building that represents my time. This was the 60s, 70s. And let me carte blanche without a budget to build the AT&T building. And the staff was fit to be tied, and the trustees, the board of his board, he had a wonderful way of voting. He said, look at this marvelous model, gentlemen. Now I want to bring this to a vote because it'll just make the company, it'll be just marvelous. And you all agree, isn't that marvelous? Philip, take the model away. And that was called voting.
And did they ever call it to a vote?
Oh, no.
That was it.
We didn't vote in that board.
So the budget was never presented, the design was never discussed?
No.
How do you feel about the fact that the AT&T building is now the Sony building?
You count for the fact that AT&T never wanted the building in the first place. It was DeButz's monument. He lived in New York. They all lived, all the board lived in New Jersey. And it's where you live that counts, if you're head of a company. So they went back to their home. They always hated the building, or living in New York, I mean. It's wonderful, isn't it? Oh, he was a great patriot.
You talked about your visit to the Petit Trianon, and I have read many references to your interest and then your ultimate. I have read references to your interest and then your visit to Hadrian's Villa.
Yes.
The results seem to have showed everywhere in your work. Where can that influence be seen here?
Well, that's an idea of Vince Scully's that I got a lot from Hadrian.
Yes?
I don't feel it right away. I feel the English landscaping.
Is more significant.
Oh, yeah.
Should we dispel the myth of Hadrian's Villa then?
Well, you know, the historian's way of saying he must have, it's getting more and more prevalent among the new historians. Johnson must have seen this and did that thing this way. I must have. Nonsense. But I do absorb things in funny ways. For instance, the pavilion down there is certainly influenced by having visited Udaipur.
This is the pavilion that is sitting in the middle of
my
the
pond down below this house.
Kind of folly that sits in the
folly.
middle of the lake, not unlike the palace at Udaipur.
Exactly. I'm glad you connected it. I jump around too much, but
no, you're right on track.
It's more fun. And that's obvious there. And here it's obvious that I'd seen Mrs. Farnsworth's house. And that, you see, what else is obvious?
Well,
that I'd seen Corbusier's path planning, where I got the path that enters the house here. That comes from Corbusier's diagram.
And how about this lonely tower on the hill? You say that's reminiscent of memorial buildings?
Well, it looks like a memorial. My friend Christine, fortunately, isn't dead, so
It's a living memorial.
A living memorial.
But do you find it reminiscent of the work of Aldo Rossi?
Not a bit.
It has been likened to that.
It has?
Yes.
What
And it may
building?
be, too, because of his work with memorial buildings. You have made it a tribute to Lincoln Kirstein,
That's
a
right.
tower. Would you describe that tower?
The tower is a folly also. It's something that, it was a landscape item. You see, if you have a landscape, you've got to have something to catch the eye, otherwise your eye just floats around. And if you don't have any focus here, plop, plop, you wouldn't have any architecture beyond it. As you look out this window, you'll see the pavilion where I work, my studio. You look out that window, you'll see the tower, because it sort of decorates the hill in a proper way to call your attention for a second before it goes on. That is sculpture. That is a size of sculpture, however, that is the size of a building, so it'll count in the landscape.
But its slender volume, again, makes it sculpture, I think.
That's right. But sculpture and architecture is so close that when you see the new building here, it is just a piece of sculpture that's blown up to take a person inside it. But isn't that still architecture? I don't know, you see.
Well, I have heard people characterize the finest piece, characterize a building in New York City as the finest piece of outdoor sculpture. And I'm talking of the work, again, of Frank Lloyd Wright and the Guggenheim Museum.
Is indeed many other things, but that's one thing it is. It's an accent, a sculptural accent on the avenue and in the park. It's one of the great decorations of the avenue.
Now, one of the great decorations of this park is that tower on the hill.
Yeah.
Why did you dedicate it to Lincoln Kirsten, who too was one of your great patrons?
Great patrons and a very
Didn't you
great-
do the New York State Theater for Lincoln Kirsten?
Oh, yes, and Nelson. Why should I could make
That's
a
why I want
nice
to go
long
back.
list of great...
Can I come back to that question now?
Of course.
We have here this tower that you dedicated to one of your patrons, Lincoln Kirsten, whose patronage was part of a larger project. Who were among your most compelling patrons?
My compelling patrons are, first place, Nelson Rockefeller, because he had the money to carry out what he wanted to do. But still the greatest remains, oh well, so many. Gerald Hines, who's a developer. But he's a developer with an eye, and that is very unusual. He's the only developer that I've ever known that picked things because he liked the looks of them. And I did many buildings for him. And he kept coming back and coming back and coming back because I could always give him a point of difference, which is his word, and a thing that pleased him. Otherwise, he gave up on me later.
Is Pennzoil Place one of his buildings?
Pennzoil, all the buildings in Houston. I built some 17 in Texas, and most of them were for Gerald Hines. Because he'd watch it like a hawk, every detail, and if he didn't like it, I was first to hear. And then if it was successful, he'd say, "Great, Philip, you know, good buildings, good architecture makes good business," that kind of remark. But then if he didn't like it, he sort of didn't talk about it again.
Maybe you should tell it to some of the marketers who now influence the design of buildings, and yours as well. It used to be banks, it used to be lawyers, but I guess now it's marketers who help determine.
Well, it was developers that brought that on, and that's why the developers are not much liked by architects, because developers are after only one thing: how can I make it cheaper? And they think that is the way to success in real estate, and that's why Gerald Hines was such an exception. He thought, if I spend 15% more, I'll get 20% more.
Was he right?
He was some of the time. I mean, the building I did for him in New York cost 15% more than
Which
the standard.
building?
The lipstick building.
Oh, yes.
The oval building.
Yes.
And that cost 15% more than a building of exactly the same size and finish.
I'm surprised to hear
The
you
same
refer
year.
to it as the lipstick building.
Oh, I don't mind these names. I call my latest house an octopus, which it isn't. That isn't a lipstick. But I like these, or the Chippendale Tower. Everybody knows what, gee, you knew what the Chippendale Tower was. That I dislike very much, but I use it because identity. That's why I invented the word deconstruction, deconstructivist rather, the word that doesn't exist, but it was picked up and made a clear image by the naming of it. If you have the name, you are part of the possession of the thing. Who said that? And Proust, of course, wrote a lot about that. The name is what it is. See? So the lipstick building has a life way beyond the building. And they call the cafe now the Lipstick Cafe.
Yes.
And everybody knows where it is. That's what he wanted, a recognition of that crossroads. He thought he would do it with the title, 53rd at 3rd. Did you ever hear that name? I never did. And it's in great big letters right on the building.
Went the way of Avenue of the Americas.
Yeah, the Avenue of America. Nobody uses the word, fortunately, for American.
Do you have a new phrase to characterize this period now that you've abandoned deconstruction?
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you. We start another change tape. We're out of tape again.
Good. Diversify your base, and your look is being copied by everyone else. So you have I made this up, but don't you think?
No, of course, something like that.
We were talking about your patrons. You've had such a wide variety and an interesting variety of patrons. Are there any others you'd like to talk about?
Now that I think of it, there are lots of great patrons, only that they come in different sizes and shapes.
Attention. It was my test to see if I was on the camera or not.
Now you know.
Why don't you repeat your answer to my question again?
Well, it'll never go over the same.
Well, I will
I
ask
love
it
all
you.
my clients, all my patrons. They're all a lot of fun.
But some a
And
little bit more?
They come in, but you know, developers, they come in different sizes and shapes. You've got people like Jerry Spire, a close friend of mine. He's a marvelous developer. He's never, because his buildings are not in the level that I'm used to, he doesn't ask me. I was rather hurts one, you know, why doesn't my best friend ask me to build? So, and then there's, that's my favorite right now, of course, is the current developer, is Donald Trump. There is a total madman, and we talk about it all the time, and he has zipper trouble, just like the President of the United States, but he has also a perfectly most beautiful woman in the world as his wife, so you don't know. But he's just marvelous at architecture because he has a...
Why do you think he's so good at it? Is this his vision, his boldness? He dares to try? Does he give
dares.
you...
He dares. His apartment is something that is out of this world, and he doesn't show it, but someday it'll be public. But you've seen gold, but you've never seen this much gold. And I love gold. What's wrong with gold? People don't use gold leaf enough because they're so puritanical. They think it's expensive. Everything's expensive.
Why didn't you
dresses
use
are
any?
expensive. I use it all the time.
But not in your own environment. Here?
Yes, that's a delicate question. I used it in the Folly down in the lake.
And? Gold leaf out of doors?
Exactly. You got it. The gold leaf is now in little tiny shreds.
On the bottom of the pond?
Yes, wherever it went.
Yes.
But it was in the ceiling. It was gorgeous. We sat down. You have to sit down in the pavilion because it's false scale, you see. So you sit on their hunkers, and then you can't help see the ceiling because it's right down here. All in gold leaf, contrasting with the concrete. That was a Frank Lloyd Wright trick. He loved contrasting gold leaf on concrete with raw concrete.
Well, the counterpoint of the materials is both jarring and satisfying.
And satisfying and intriguing. You see. There's nothing like gold leaf. So I use it every ceiling that there's money enough for. Every ceiling that, well, I have a great patron at Lincoln Kirstein. He thought gold leaf was just marvelous. Okay? But,
and you used it throughout the New York State Theater.
New York State Theater, that's the one that Lincoln helped me with, as it were.
And you, in turn, made an homage to Lincoln in that tower on the hill.
That's right.
Now, Philip, you've simply got to tell us what that inscription is. Myself and thousands and tens of thousands of visitors to this estate will neither have possibly the energy or the wit to climb to the top. And while I think there should be mystery, you should share this secret with us. What does it say?
You're very persuasive, dear lady, and I wouldn't think of it. Every word you say makes me want to hide it even more. And you know, I don't know.
Oh, well, that's why. That's a good enough reason to keep a secret.
It's such a convoluted statement from the Bible. From, I don't know.
Is it about a cornerstone?
See, people have been leaking.
How do you know I haven't been there?
Well, darling, certain kindness prevents me from telling you you're never going to get to the top of that. I can't get the top anymore either. And yes, it's about cornerstones. But how it's phrased, I can't.
Did you choose?
He chose it. He had it carved by a great carver. At the bottom there's a plaque dedicated to the poet Lincoln Kirstein, and he also laid out.
Well, he is a remarkable combination of geniuses.
Yes, he is.
So it is inappropriate to have a living memorial to him.
Yes, it's just wonderful. And he's crazy about it, of course, and never went up. Because he was
How do we know it's really there?
I can testify for it, and so can anybody else that's been up.
All right. Let's go back for a bit.
Sure.
What was it in the 1930s that first attracted you to the international style?
an article, a chance article in an art magazine on the work of a then totally unknown Dutch architect named J.P. Out, by an unknown writer named Russell Hitchcock. And they'd never heard of Mr. Hitchcock, and I certainly never heard of Mr. Out. But these buildings were ravishing in the photographs. So I said, well, I guess going to change your career, Johnson. I was in my student room at Harvard. And it did change my life.
Did you intend for the glass house to be a symbol of the international style?
No, I was doing it because Mies did it. I'm a copycat at heart, and the fact that it's become that is a historical accident.
You said
mean, the real glass house is in Chicago. Only who goes to Chicago? Excuse me. And then who goes, if they get to Chicago, how are they going to reach a town called Plano, 3/4 of an hour away? So this house has become the most famous of the glass houses.
You've said earlier that you're really not an architect, you're a figure in the world of art.
That's right.
Have you spent more time in the company of artists than architects?
No. Artists and I don't hit it off usually. Sculptors and painters, architects.
And I had the exact opposite impression.
No.
Because of your intense and significant patronage of artists over the last 30 years, I know so many who have such regard for your taste, for your discernment, for your support, but this is not on a personal level.
That's right.
Why are you laughing?
That's your rounded English period sentences. Continue them. But that isn't quite the case. The case is that I always have advisors. I've had two in my life. One is Alfred Barr, and most of the things you see in the museum that I've given, the Museum of Modern Art, were recommended by Alfred Barr.
I assume the other is our good friend David Whitney.
My best friend
and your long-term companion.
Yes.
How long, by the way, has David been your companion?
35 years.
That's very long, isn't it?
It makes a very satisfying life. Thank you. And he knows all about art and has a much quicker, maybe quicker eye is the word for it. It takes me a little while to come into focus with a work of art.
Well, is it because he almost solely focuses on the
painting.
arts
That's
and the
right.
decorative arts,
That's right.
while your vision, without limiting his,
Yeah.
is more panoramic?
No, it's more architecture. Architecture and art, although they're inseparable twins, have influence on each other, but they are different. The architectural approach to sculpture, for instance, is a little different, like the tower, from a sculptor's approach to that problem of building a tower on that hill. Brancusi was a marvelous architectural sculptor. I mean, that endless tower has been copied.
In Romania.
In Romania.
I went to see it.
Did you go?
Yes, last year.
Oh, I'm dying to go.
No,
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 not in the state it is now.
no, and nor Romania. It's one of the saddest places. Let us come back for a moment. I want to talk about David Whitney is a distinguished curator, a well-recognized and widely admired curator. What has been his influence on the galleries? What has been his influence on your preferences in art?
Well, he was a personal friend of Jasper Johns, the greatest American painter, and I was a closer friend of, let's say, de Kooning, which is a little older generation. But so I got interested in the generation of the post-Abex painters, sculptors, like Donald Judd, and which I commissioned several pieces from, and Andy Warhol. And those people I owe my introduction to David Whitney.
How did you first meet David?
In the architecture business. He was a student at RISD, and I was a lecturer. And it wasn't unusual because his first question to me was, Mr. Johnson, whatever persuaded you to buy the flag? You see, well, nobody
The Jasper Johns
Jasper
flag.
Johns flag. And why should anybody even know about the fact that I'd bought it? His knowledge of the inner world of the arts fascinates me.
Even as a student.
Yeah, as a student, he knew that I'd bought this very strange painting.
That, of course, has now become an icon of
itself.
20th century art.
That's right, which I wish I'd kept. But now it decorates the museum. And so since then, we've been buying art together. And a lot of the things in the art gallery are because of his influence.
So he has a great deal to say about the choice of art.
A great deal to say.
Does he have a lot to say about its exhibition as well?
Yes. Oh, yes. We hang things together, but any building requires this different hanging. Like this building requires no competition with the Poussin. Imagine another painting.
The only other work of art here is a large sculpture that you've referred to as the Martini Twins. Could you explain that and talk about...
That was influenced by another great man that's influenced me, Lincoln Kirstein. He was a great friend of Elie Nadelman's, the odd, eccentric American sculptor. And he saw that piece in the studio of Nadelman, and he recommended it to me and to Nelson Rockefeller.
And the rest is history.
And Nelson bought one, and now the big one is in the
But the big
State
one
Theater.
was not a work by Nadelman, but an adaptation. Can you explain that, please?
Yes.
We're talking about the sculpture in the lobby of the upper lobby of the New York State Theater.
That's right, and there are two enormous girls that face each other across this promenade. And Lincoln and I thought for a long time, we don't have any ceiling decorations like Rococo. We don't have any chandeliers like Rococo. So to substitute for that in our great hall, we thought of putting a statue. And he said, I know what we'll do. We'll blow up the, pardon me, not blow it up, the Nadelman. And I said, well, Nadelman, what would he say? He says he was absolutely passionate about reproduction. In fact, he built, for cheapness, out of paper mache, which my statue is a paper mache statue. And so he loved the idea of enlarging. So we enlarged it, we didn't touch it. It's exactly, you see, they have these machines in Italy, these tools, that, you do it small, but it comes out the other end of the tool, very big. What do they call those? Pantograph. Whew. And so by blowing it up in stages, they got it to the scale we wanted. But
how do you feel about it now?
I love them. They're very great companions there.
Like bookends on either end of the promenade.
Sure.
How would you feel if someone took one of your designs and enlarged it and adapted it in that way?
Well, I think they were crazy, but I'd be very flattered. Let me see one of my designs. You mean something small I did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be the most flattering thing that could happen. And use it in another context.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
How does your taste and David's taste in art, David Whitney's taste in art, differ?
Well, we're 35 years is a long time. We've sort of grown together on our taste. So if he doesn't like something, I tend not to like it.
And vice versa?
Well, we do have difference in taste. For instance, I like the greatest painter in history to me, one of the greats, is Caspar David Friedrich, who was a Prussian landscape artist that isn't well known. But I just swoon, collapse.
And obviously that's not something that he responds to as well. Does anybody have absolute veto powers over the work that you acquire?
No, I do. Usually money.
The buck stops there.
The books.
You talked earlier, when you Friedrich reminds me of a part of your life that you were not so proud of any longer. And that was the period that you were attracted to Berlin in the 30s.
That's right.
Did you ever hear Hitler speak?
Oh, yes. That's what he was, speaker. He reminded me very much of Cuomo. That same compelling, driving nonsense. I mean, I heard you Cuomo the other night, and by the end of the speech, he wasn't making too much sense, but he was getting his audience. It's a fascinating thing to watch.
What was your attraction to Hitler?
The attraction to Hitler was just one of the greatest mistake of my life, because my interest in in revolutions dated from the time when I went down to see Huey Long and the American populist sort of a reaction to the Depression.
You saw Huey Long as a revolutionary?
Oh yes, which he was, but he wasn't very good, and he wasn't very successful. The only thing about revolutions are they're usually not successful. But then I was more interested in the theories of history, like what Isaiah Berlin calls the black thinkers. And I read up on the French are the most strongest on that. Sorel, Pareto, Italian, Nietzsche, German, the whole European scene of reaction, and the combination of socialism and reaction. In Germany now they're called the Red Tories. In other words, they're revolutionaries, but they're Tories in their conservatism. Something comes from Prussia, which is no longer there, but it had a lot of books like Spengler, like Müller-Van den Broek, that I liked, but not Hitler. See, Hitler was the betrayal of all good revolution.
And when did you come to realize that?
A little late, dear. I was carried away by the physical excitement of the streets, and a lot of people were. It was amazing in Berlin. My friends were just plain divided. Between my best friends, we all became communists, of course. And I lived on the other side of Berlin and became fascist inclined. I never joined anything. But I got all excited, like the Mitfords, like a lot of the English. His Royal Highness, of course, a well-known example. But it was nonetheless wrong, you see, which, of course, when it overcame me, gave me 5 years of very, very unpleasant remorse.
5 years?
Oh no, it's still here.
Would you really have designed buildings for Hitler if he'd asked?
Only like Neutra, my best Jewish architect friend, said, "Who's this man Hitler? I hear he builds." In other words, you build for the devil himself. No, of course I wouldn't. But I mean, one is tempted. You see.
Who's the shadiest person you ever did build for?
Oh, a wonderful man, gangster. I didn't know it. Friend of mine in Wall Street, who should have known better too. Marvin Lasky, what was his first name? Oh, he's a wonderful man. And he was, I didn't know it, but he was a mafia type. He was the cashier, the money man for one of the families. Found out later, there's a book on Lasky.
Meyer
Meyer
Lansky?
Lansky.
What did you do for him?
I didn't build it, just at the end, was saved by the revolution in Cuba. The Hotel Monaco, it's still there, not by me. And we had lots of fun. They fired me finally because the marketers said that my rooms wouldn't sell or something.
Even then?
Oh yes, developers, always listen to the bottom line.
Someone who takes as many strong positions as you do is bound to make enemies over the years. Who are they?
I mollified the ones I can, and the ones I can't, I don't speak to.
Like, who are they?
But there are none right now.
Oh, maybe it's time for a little fermentation.
Who shall I get mad at?
I don't see anybody right now.
No.
What is the secret of how you manage to sustain yourself in the demanding profession of architecture? Here you've managed and still manage to get new commissions at the same time you're working on a number of other projects, and you manage to do it over such an extended period of time. What's your secret?
I haven't the slightest idea. How do you can't explain yourself either. See, that's something you can't ask.
What do you enjoy most about being a public figure?
I love fame. I think everybody does. Obviously you do. And it's a wonderful drink. It's a very...
Heady potion.
That's the word I was trying to think of, thank you.
Well, what do you enjoy least?
You're going to be my speech maker.
I like that. What do you enjoy least about being a public figure?
The pests around me. You got plenty of those.
I'm coming back to the painting galleries now. Every collector seems to have stories about the one that got away. What's yours?
There's a great, I'm still angry, a great Rosenquist, the Chrysler collection, and the Chrysler collection came to auction, and I think I bid first, but a very rich man said he bid first, and they gave it to him.
Where was this? At an auction house?
No, an auction house in New York, and it was Walter Chrysler. That got it away from me.
How did your experience at the Museum of Modern Art affect your design for the galleries?
Oh, a lot, because I don't like the way they show them at any museum. So I said, well, Johnson, how would you hang a picture? Well, I'd hang a picture in the Japanese way of concentrating on one or two things at a time. See, the attention span, for instance, the Mona Lisa is usually hung in a room all by itself. Then, you know, you say, oh, this must be important if you're just an ordinary tourist. Or if you're a student, it helps you concentrate enormously by having a very great work of art alone. So I said, how do you combine that and have a collection? Because the Japanese have scrolls. They can unroll them and look at them and then put them away. But I can't put great big 8x10 pictures in scrolls. So I figured out a way, well, it seemed very simple, of like postcard racks on a central shaft that you pull around and take this one and put it around that way, and then take this and push it back here and pull another one out. And
there are some collectors who've adapted a similar
Really?
method. Don't you think Baltimore, Maryland?
Maryland, I've never been.
Yes.
Oh, you pull them out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another way, but that's very, very consuming. You have to go and pull things out, and you get different distance. I had that, of course, first here.
Yours is more like a cleaning rack that
This is
keeps
more
on
like a
circulating.
postcard. Yeah.
Postcard.
Or, you know, a postcard rack, you can turn them around. So you look up your favorite pictures and bring them out.
Are most of your favorite painters represented in the works in the gallery, or who would you like to add, if anyone?
Right now I have a passion for Julian Schnabel, and we have 3, but some good ones, some not. But there's a man that should be explored in depth, and has done very bad, but very good work, and he's completely undervalued. We don't have one at the Modern.
None.
I guess somebody gave us, our new trustee, Mr. Geffen, finally gave us one, but not the taste of the staff.
What is it about the work of both David Salé and Julian Schnabel that especially appeals to you? Is it their ability to stir up controversy as well as their art?
No, Schnabel is an egregious publicist, and so that kept me from him for many, many years. But then he's rather fascinating. No, Salé I like because of his going back to a richer field. There is something really boring about Mondrian after the years. It's like Mies. Why did I change from Mies? Boredom. It's a natural thing that happens after a time. Doesn't mean that Mondrian isn't a great artist. He is. But I like to have the Salé pictures with their layerings, and everything going on. In one layer goes a lot of furniture. You look back a layer, and there's a whole crowd of people. You look back 5 layers, and there's a tapestry. Single great figure of a Baroque woman. Well, I mean, that you could stand in front of that picture for quite a while without exhausting it, as indeed you could of many great pictures in the Renaissance.
Have you invited many artists here to see their own work or even to help install it?
Oh yes, they've all been here. They could manage to get here. De Kooning hasn't, of course. But
Then why do you think that you don't have a close relationship with artists?
because David Whitney has wonderful connections with artists on a very personal level.
So as compared to David, but not as compared to most other people.
Oh no, I know them. Surely. But you don't always have to like them all at the same amount. No, John's, of course, a great friend of both of ours, as was Andy.
As an architect, do you prefer sculpture to painting?
No. That's a good question, though. Well, in a way, because I'm more used to almost doing it up at the other house. Oh, yeah, my favorite artist right now is Frank Stella, a little late, but because he's turned into an architect. You know, you're doing this strange thing in Dresden, and it's one of those buildings that I use as the basis, different, of course, for my building here. Stella goes so far as to call this building Stella, no, Dresden 2.
Oh.
2.
Other than the Kirsten sculpture, have you ever tried creating other works of sculpture or art?
Well, that sculpture, the new building, excuse me, I always point, you can't
Yes.
see it.
Why would you characterize the visitor center as a sculpture, as a work? Let me just rephrase that. Why would you characterize the visitors center as sculpture?
Because it seems to defy the normal things of a habitation. It has no windows. It doesn't have a roof. It has, the facades are all warped. It has a difficult sense of scale. I mean, I'm amazed. It's just a tiny building. I thought it was a big building. You see, it has no recognizable signifiers of scale like a window or a door. See, so it looks like in my mind, in the model, looks like a rather large piece of a clay model. I'll see you shortly. It'll come back in a few months.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. You've said that the sculpture gallery is your best room. Why is that so?
Because it's something I've always wanted to do. To me, architecture is interior architecture. If you take the works of the Renaissance or the Baroque or the Gothic, the best of Chartres is the great nave with the windows. You can't take windows away from it. You can't take it's a perfect work of art. But in architecture, it's how you feel as well as how you enter it. So I took my favorite stairs that goes round and round and down, and my favorite idea of central would be a circle or a square, but I broke it. That's what I liked the best. I made a pentagonal shape out of the square. And then I made 45-degree angles for the rooms off the square. So there's much more play and much more interest than there is in this house. In fact, that room was so successful, I was going to move up there at one time. And put the sculpture down here. Too much trouble. But it would have made a wonderful house.
What's the story?
Oh, it's just videotape. Not like film, is it?
What's the full story of the Giacometti? What is the full story of the Giacometti sculpture?
That was one of our sadder things that occurred in everybody's life. I bought from Giacometti in Paris one time a very small single man walking, only very, very, very thin, attenuated figure, white, plaster, because he didn't cast it. And I had it on the central table here for several years. It's been in lots of published pictures, so people say, "Where is your Giacometti?" Well, of course,
Where is your Giacometti?
it fell to pieces. Just that nobody touched it, but it was very fragile, and the armature was too big for the plaster; it couldn't hold it on. So I took it back to Giacometti, and he was delighted to fix it, but he died.
Before it was completed?
Yeah.
And his brother couldn't cast that?
Nothing. Never heard a word. Oh no, nothing to cast.
You have another another sculptor. There is the work of another sculptor here who is known for plaster casts as well, down at the end. George Siegel.
George, yes, of course I do. Yes.
How would you characterize that work? Was that inspired in some way by the Museum of Modern Art Sculpture Garden?
No way. I'd known George, of course, since the museum bought the first one, the truck, the bus driver. I was perplexed when Alfred went off on a tangent like that. But then I got to liking it very much, and haunting. And it's good to have that personal note into art and architecture again. So.
What do you mean?
Well, a person with a feeling, and then you get this empathy with the person in the picture or in the image, and it's quite a different feeling from looking at a Mondrian. In other words, they're both art, but appealing to different parts of the cerebellum, or it is. And so I like the one I have because it's kind of cute.
And romantic.
And romantic, goodness.
But you are romantic.
I'm terribly romantic. So that's where I got to the German language, was through the Romantic movement, which came from there, Goethe, and after him.
How do you use the study here?
My study is, I call it different things. I call it my little house, my study, my studio, my library, my workplace.
Would you also call it your most private building?
It's the only private building. People are not invited. I had 100 people here the other day, and it was locked.
Is that why there is no clear pathway to it?
There's no pathway. There's no pathway to it, and there's only room for, well, I do have room for another chair because I might, Lincoln's been in, of course. He used to come and visit me every Sunday morning, Lincoln Kirstein, and he'd come in, privileged character. But
you've made it difficult, but you've made the access difficult for yourself as well. You have to wade through snow and water to get to it.
Yes, but then it's all worth coming to. You realize how long and how hard more ardor you have to get to a goal, the more you're going to enjoy it, like a pilgrimage. See, you have you get all well at, where's that place in southern
Lourdes.
France? Lourdes. You get well, you see. And you can't get well unless you went to that awful thing of getting to Lourdes, or getting to Mecca, whatever you
So is that pilgrimage, can the pilgrimage be likened to the processional?
It is part of the processional. The processional is something we haven't defined, but it's the most important thing in architecture.
How would you define that?
Well, they define it only by example. You can't, the best example, of course, the clearest one is walking up the nave of a Gothic cathedral. You know the altar's there, you know the bread and the body are there, but your goal is there and you can see it. And then you stagger up to it, you see. All architecture, in a way, is the processional. The Parthenon. Parthenon had a very difficult, you couldn't get up there on a mule back. You have to walk up that terrible entrance up to the Acropolis. Then you have to walk down and turn around 180 degrees before you get to the front door. In other words, it's a long and arduous, toilsome thing to get to the front door. And then, of course, once you get in, that's it. That's what you want. Except you don't ever get in, you see. Very clever. In other words, the processional was the thing. We never did reach the goal in a Greek temple.
So maybe the process is more important than the end result.
That's apt to be the way. And the process and the processional, the process in this place is certainly true. If I'd have put this house on a city street, there'd been no surprise, no life, no nothing. But because it's not anywhere near the road, and we try to keep these motorized things as far as, because there's no experience from a car. You can't say, well, they just go faster, don't you? No, you don't. Elevators and cars are violently anti-architectural, as is your new kind of highway you're talking about. It's very anti-visual, you see, all about those words and their abbreviations. But the word processional means that as you walk into a building, you get a sense of a building coming up and gobbling you up. Or if you're in a building, you go from, this house is very processional, to get to this point, which is the podium of the house, you see. You have to come in and you go through the entrance room, and then you proceed to the living room, and then you come over into the corner of the house where you can't go any further for your resting place. You have another processional if you want to sit in the living room. You pass through the entrance hall into the living room, and then you go to the chair groupie. Then you make a 180-degree circle before you can sit down. So you can't just go in and sit down. And that's all. As you change your point of view of your looks, you change your whole look on life. See, going from this view here to the view to the study is a violent dislocation. And then that becomes your goal. And when that becomes your goal, you set out on foot, without a path, through the storm, through the wind, through the long grass, the dirt, where you have to wear boots, you have to dress up as if you're going to the Arctic. And it's quite a struggle to get there in the deep snow. In fact, I've turned back a couple of times. That shows you how important it is to have a goal that's hard to reach. Ad astra per aspera, I just thought of that.
Excellent.
To the stars through troubles.
But you are goal-oriented.
Oh, yes. And I set my own goals and then I work to get them. All I want to do is to reform the architecture of the world. Seemed a small enough trick, but I wasn't successful.
Well, I think you have then.
Are we ever
Don't you
successful?
think that
Maybe
you are?
we never receive.
No, but don't you think by any standards,
Yeah.
you would have to be described as one of the most successful?
Yes, yes, yes. I don't know what that means because I'm not successful in what I want to do.
And what is it that you would like
What
to
I
do?
wanted to do was gone, long gone. I wanted to be a great architect. I wanted to be Frank Lloyd Wright. Michelangelo is the one we all think of. How could he? How could he be so great?
How would you like history to appraise you?
Well, the way they will. An eccentric that collected and had an influence through the Museum of Modern Art on younger architects.
Why are you so harsh on yourself?
I don't find it
I don't
hard.
think that anybody would limit a description of you to that. Anyone.
That's the way I see it. I'm very influential. As according to Eisenman, I'm the most powerful architect since Bernini. Whatever that means, powerful. I can wring necks, I suppose. I can spoil careers, can I? I'm not like a critic in the New York Times. There's the real power. So what? I love power, but the power of shaping inert objects to give people tears is the main thing. You do it with precision of some kind.
What's the most important thing for a visitor to the estate to know? What should they come away with?
I think they should come away with enjoying the landscape. The 50-year project. It's a 50-year work of art. It's just now getting ripe.
Still a work in progress.
It's still a work in progress. It will always be, I hope. I've got a few more years, 20 more.
At least.
And I'm going to build somewhere. But if they get the feeling of wandering around this place and feeling the different processionals and have their interest piqued by one or two, for instance, the tower, or for instance, the fault scale pavilion, the Folly down there, or the art collection, or the strange buildings when you come into the place. I mean, it's going to be really weird. First, really far out building.
And what are you calling that building?
That's called the Visitor Center.
But you always have a more affectionate or personal
well, I hope the
reference to
public
it.
will help me there. They did certainly in the Lipstick Building. I mean, now I no longer tell, where's your office? My office is in the Lipstick Building. And people know exactly where it is, you see. Well, that's hard to put a building on a map, It's that building with a hole in it. I know which building they're talking about.
Why did you build the chain link structure in the woods just down from the study? Is it significant that it's
Ghost house, yeah?
Yes. Is it significant that it's the only structure visible from the study?
No at all. I had some wonderful foundations in the woods. I never found them first year I was here. Then I found them after slogging through the mud long enough. I found these old foundations for farm buildings. And so I said, oh, gee, I love ruins so much. Let's memorize these ruins. So I built, on the old foundations, I built the ghost house, which was...
Is that where the name comes from?
No, no. I call it the ghost house because I can't think of what else to call it.
I thought the ghost
Of the old barn. It was a cow barn, and where the cows were milked is still there. Well, the reasons are very strange, but the reason it's made of chain link is because my dear friend Frank Gehry uses chain link, and I wanted to use it in a different way. I use it as another great architect, Venturi, did in Philadelphia when he took Ben Franklin's house and made it into a ghost house. Just the outline of it. That is romantic. That struck me at the time.
So the ghost house was really inspired both by the work of Gehry and
by
Venturi.
Venturi. And as Frank Gehry always says, yeah, but look how you got back at me. He copied my house, the little house with the chimney there, my little house, the study, in his house in Minneapolis. So we all have fun.
Is the guest house your real house?
The guest house? That house?
Yes.
No. Never think of it. That's just a cellar sort of addition to the
How did the guest house change with the remodeling?
Oh, more sexy. It was a very stupid house when I first built it because I wasn't thinking. I think, oh, I got to have a house over there for the necessaries. Don't I like the furnace and extra bathrooms and might be a guest or something. So I put there's 3 rooms in a row, all too small. I put a bathroom in, and then the servants used to live there. So then I put in a kitchen, little things like that, and then I didn't have servants anymore, obvious reasons. And then after that, I said, well, let's make a thing out of this. So it was only about 5 years the whole time. And then thousands of different things came to mind, like the John Soane and Fortuny fabric and lots of things that are wonderful.
Who is the most memorable guest that you've ever had to stay here?
Overnight, I haven't had anybody stay here since Mies was here. About 20 years ago, I don't have guests.
Day trippers.
Day trip. Well, guests, are like fish. After 3 days.
No. What were people's comments who visited here?
Comments
Yes.
from them?
Yes. Do you have a guest book?
Oh, no. I don't really like guests.
You entertain so much, but I guess it is large and anonymous.
Large and anonymous, except at time with my colleagues.
And you learned your lesson never to repeat that.
Well, we have repeated it. We have this little group that meets at the Century Club once a year. But that's dribbled away too out of the same reasons.
Are you ready to call another retreat here?
No.
Another summit meeting?
Oh, no, I never would. Well, the time, place for everything, right?
Who or what inspired you the most during the course of your career?
Alfred Barr. The brightest man I ever knew. Lincoln, Kirstein. David Whitney. Or what? What was, of course, the travel to see architecture, the excitement of seeing really great architecture in the great periods when they did know what it was all about.
Let's talk for a moment about your convictions as an architect. Every architect in every great culture has said not to build on top of a hill.
That's right.
Do you follow this reasoning?
And how? Well, no reason, it's just a dictum. It's very bad to build on the top of the hill. The Japanese are the only ones that have an explanation for that. If you build on a shelf, down, up. If you build on that shelf, the good spirits that you want to cultivate are caught between the house and the upgoing side. And the evil spirits get caught below the cliff and can't climb up.
Sounds like the feng shui man.
It does sound rather Chinese, doesn't it? But
Yes.
I was told it was Japanese.
Have you updated your 7 Crutches of Architecture?
No, I haven't read it for 20 years. It's good, isn't it?
Yes. You must have some contemporary additions to that. If pressed, what would you add to the list?
Since I don't remember the list, I can't.
Sorry. Is there a seminal Johnson look to the buildings you've designed?
No, that's my big fault as an architect. I don't have much continuity. You can't say, oh, there's another Johnson building. I'm sure it's a Johnson building, or the way you would Sullivan or Richardson. That's real Richardson, that isn't. I mean, Hitchcock used to be able to do that from a mile away. But with my work, how could you?
Have you seen buildings, though, that are specifically influenced by your work,
No.
other than the international style buildings?
No, the one, well, you might say that the AT&T building had a bad influence.
Or a good one?
Or a good one, yeah. But it's hard to pin it down, and I can't find an individual building. But Frank Lloyd Wright did the opposite, you know. He'd get in a car and drive across Indiana, and he'd say, now you take your side of the car, and I'll take my side, and see which one of us can collect the most Frank Lloyd Wright houses. I mean, influenced by. There's a real arrogance, heavenly.
What do you see as your long-term influences as an architect?
Just the history books. I won't have much. This house, I'm glad it's going to be preserved because it has my message in it.
What is your message?
None. Just the landscape, a pleasant architectural landscape and buildings plopped around. Of a whole, it's rather an interesting era from the 40s to the 90s. You see, there's a 50-year period there. And that obviously was a 40s house, and that obviously was a 90s building. See, because they're historians and know better than the historians we've got now, and they'll know where things are.
What did you really mean, or was this an overblown statement to provoke when you said that architects are whores? In what context was that spoken and to whom?
Well, that was at a conference of my peers that we had in Charlottesville one year, the Charlottesville tapes. And somebody was saying that they only did, you know, great work, and then I said, come off it. We're all whores. Architecture are whores. They do the best they can for the job that's given them, which is sometimes indistinguishable from unpleasant jobs.
Can
you see? And so we are all whores. We all chase money. Now, it can be called emperors, it can be called popes, it can be called the greatness of the country, it can become the whim of a rich man.
Can that statement be applied to other fields?
I imagine to most fields, when the money gets into it.
But how does that contrast to your statement, your conviction, that architecture is an art?
You get that the problem with architecture as an art, it's much better to be a sculptor or a painter, which I have no interest in at all. But I'm not. I'm an architect, and so that.
Why is it better?
Well, because you can work for yourself. Of course, I do that, but I'm a very, very privileged architect indeed. Frank Lloyd Wright did it with other people's money whenever he could get it, otherwise he begged it. And, but he did his best work for himself. We all do.
You say that you'd work for the devil if he paid you up front.
That's right. You put it better than I do. I work for the devil himself.
Well, did that devil pay you up front, and who was it?
You're being too literal-minded. Let me see. Yes, the devil was a developer, and he said, I have a Fifth Avenue apartment to house. And the local people turned it down because it wasn't fitting and it wasn't good architecture. Would you work on a plain facade? There's mistake A. Just the facade, the building was all there. I later lived there, behind my mask.
We are now talking about the building across the street from the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
The developer of which should be nameless, naturally.
Why should he be nameless, this devil?
Well, he didn't consider himself a devil, of course. He just wanted to make money and get his building built.
So what did you do for him? I
did a tasteful, quote-unquote, building and non-building in limestone. But anybody would know. What you can't do is stick something on another building as a piece of, that's not architecture. And you shouldn't, that's the law of the Holy Ghost, you should not do non-architecture. And that was plain wrong. I've chastised myself ever since.
Are you really an artist masquerading as an architect?
Well, you see, I don't see the difference. Artists, all architects are artists. They're not very good ones. But they all like to be. They're heart of hearts. Except Gropius, I really don't think, well, he kept using the word beauty, didn't he? But he didn't really care. Very sad.
Do some of your contemporaries, those people that you knew at Harvard, like Edward Larrabee Barnes, I.M. Pei, have they ever visited here? And if so, what was their reaction?
I don't think Barnes ever been here. Pei has been here. He was in that crowd I had here, my peers. And the silence was deafening. He later built himself a glass house, somewhat like this.
On Sutton Place?
No, I don't mean in town. It's a house in the country.
Oh, the Westchester House.
In Westchester, yeah. Not far from here.
Mm-hmm. You said that architects make lousy profits. What do you think the role of an architect should be?
Not prophecy.
Well, what is it? What do you think it is?
The role of the architect is try to make art out of whatever tatters the client gives you, or limitations. I'm doing a building now that's just not how limited. The building sits there already, the Gulf and Western building, and I'm recladding it. There I am again. But the building is so prominent, it is so much in the eyes of New Yorkers, that naturally I can't help hoping against hope that I can make something to be worth looking at out of it.
But that's also a building that can be a sculptural form in the landscape.
Except that the sculptural form, the actual building itself is already there. So we'll
And what
see.
do you have in mind to sheath it in?
Well, I don't know. We're having battles. I battled with GE, I battled with Galbraith, the other developer. I battled naturally with my dear friend, Mr. Trump.
What building haven't you done yet that you'd care to?
Church, big church. I'm doing a lovely little church.
Well, you
down
did a big church. I've been to the church in California.
Oh yeah, that is a wonderful church.
World's largest drive-in church, that wonderful glass cathedral.
Yes, Crystal Cathedral.
Crystal Cathedral. And I've been to another one that is really not a church, but a spiritual moment in New Harmony.
Oh yes, that's the church. Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I love churches. But I want to do a bigger one, actually. I want to do a statement for the ages. Remember, like when they did those things in the 11th, 12th century. Well, that's too great to aim for. But something more simple, but big. Thick crowds come in and feel touched by the space.
In this instance,
you've got to have height, you've got to have length, you have to have darkness, you have to have light. That's what I tried to do for Dr. Schuller first time. I gave him a dark thing with chiaroscuro light coming in from unknown sources and things like that.
that's the Crystal Cathedral.
The Crystal Cathedral I later built for him in glass. But he had the right attitude. He wanted a great building for the glory of God. And that's much better than the other reasons to build.
If you had it to do over again, what would you do otherwise?
I think I'd pay more attention to my own work. Less whoring around.
You've paid a lot of attention to your own work.
Oh, yes.
And you've been a source, a catalyst.
But I did enjoy all that work. How many skyscrapers can I build this year? No. The 80s went to the head. It was a great decade. And of course I had my share.
You certainly did.
But it's better now. The quietness. You hear the quietness. Can't even hear the hammers up on the job.
What next?
Well, right after that, I have to do that Cleveland job. After that, I have the slightest idea. Whatever occurs to me. Oh, at 100, I'm retiring.
Why? Why would you think of doing
Because I'll be
something?
100 years old. I don't think I...
And that's how you're going to celebrate your centennial?
No,
Consider
no,
George Abbott. He just celebrated his 108th birthday with producing another show. I'm expecting you to top that.
Well, I thought it'd be nice to go to Rome to live.
Rome? I'm not letting you out of this country. Why Rome? They're about to have a fascist government there. We don't want to go to Rome.
We don't want to go to that.
No.
No good for architecture.
How about, Palladio?
What about him?
Well, that whole place around Oslo, if you're going to Italy.
Oh, going to the Palladian country.
Yes.
I like Rome. More guts.
It does. Yeah. What's your favorite city in the United States?
Well, just architecturally, you wouldn't want to live there, Savannah. I love the plan. I love
The Oglethorpe
streets,
plan?
yeah.
But you're not so interested in the historic preservation aspects of it at all.
I certainly am. I want to preserve it for my own, because of the street scene. See,
Those 7 squares.
Every go
Yes.
in the little squares,
Yes.
the excellent plan. And then the river that cuts in. Oh. Of course, you'd have to tear down a few of the buildings they built on the river, but that's not easy.
And of the city... Okay. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd care to?
We've talked about the world, thanks to your leadership.
No, you're
I
just
think we've
magnificent.
covered it all.
There must be something. How about some in summation?
Information.
In summary.
In summary, ars longa vita brevis. That's all.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you,
You are
Rohe.
magnificent. I had a great time. Applause, applause. It was fabulous.
You're good.
Fabulous. I had the best time. The best.
He did.
I
I
did.
think it's probably for me.
You are
Open
remarkable.
that door before I see. Can you open the door?
The person involved, and are busy building. They acquire townhouses for foundation headquarters. They travel all over the world and are busy creating a way of life that even the heirs never saw. So, and in that sense, Brooke Astor has had it perfectly right. Spend it all while you're around to enjoy every single moment and to be so venerated as she has in these last 15 years.
So wonderful.
But she has done it brilliantly.
And
Yes.
so quiet.
And I have often thought that, what was his name, that we should publish some of it somewhere. Because some of it is not going to be relevant to the film, but I would like the unexpurgated version to go either to the Museum of Modern Art, that's what we're extracting in return, the soundtrack to its design department. I really think we have to insist that they do that. I think MoMA's design.
I think so.
Don't you think, in the light of everything? That, and then who's doing this transcript?
Yeah, we got to talk.
All right.
Say something.
I know you're hungry, but guess what? So am I.
If you don't mention it, you won't be hungry.
All right.
See, let's say we were still taping.
Yes, I wouldn't even think about it.
Never crossed your mind.
Yes. I'm still
But once
focusing
the
on
tape
you.
is stopped. It's funny
Yes.
that your mind can change your actions and your appetites like that.
Incidentally, I went to Hugh Hardy's apartment the other night.
Really?
He moved, is the
1001.
1001, is the corner, Mary Biddle Siemens Duke's house on the corner. That house is for sale after she restored it.
Are you going to be able to rephrase? I didn't write.
It's okay. I'll tell you when I can.
Okay.
We need, yeah.
Okay. Really quickly. Okay.
You've said that you'd work for the devil himself if he paid you.
If we're going to do these, then we just have to get a little
Up front.
separation, because, you know, you came in very
Overlaps.
close at the end of her.
Sorry.
You have overlap.
You've said that you'd work for the devil himself if he paid you up front. Did you, and did he?
And what happened, and did he? Let me see. You want the answer?
Nope, it's okay.
They have the answer. Unless you think of a funnier one.
I love all your questions. Have her repeat them all. Especially the long one.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
I wanted you to just, can you just say, so the ghost house was inspired both by Gary and by Venturi?
Then it would be fair to say that the ghost house was inspired by both Frank Gehry and Robert Venturi.
Certainly would. Jewels from the...
What is the most important thing for a visitor to the estate to know?
What is the most important thing that you would like a visitor to the estate to know? What do you want the visitor to come away with after seeing the glass house?
How would you like history to remember you?
How would you like history to remember you,
You're
Philip?
changing frame.
Do it again.
How would you like history to remember you, Philip?
With kindness.
Can you work yourself and say, but you are a romantic?
That I can do because he is so romantic. But you are a romantic. Was that emphatic enough for your taste? But you are a romantic.
You're perfect.
But you are a romantic, and you are perfect too. Did I mess up the line then? Is there enough of a break?
Receive it. Kind of turning over here to the side. Whoop. Oh, geez, now I've done it.
I'm just holding it. See if you can hear me over here. Because I said it another way. I think, is that true? Is that so?
Okay.
You've said that your sculpture gallery is your best building. Is that true?
I'm sorry, you have to say it again. Your room, best room.
No, fine.
No, it does matter,
When you answer.
because it's your best room. It's not the best building.
I'd be very happy to say it.
It matters. I've been reading these.
You've said that your sculpture gallery is your best room. Is that so? I'm going to say that again. You've said that your sculpture gallery is your best room. Is that so?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in this picture too in a funny
Yeah,
way.
you're in it.
My God.
You're in it.
What is the story of the Giacometti sculpture?
Did I say it that way?
Yep.
Can I say whatever happened to
sorry,
the
can
Giacometti sculpture?
No.
No, you asked about what is the story.
What's the story?
Needs a prelude. I think I'm going to say,
Anything you want.
in photographs of this room, a Giacometti maquette is often depicted. Whatever happened to it? What's the story with the Giacometti sculpture?
That won't fit my answer very well because
It does.
Does it?
Yes, because I also wanted an audience to understand what we were talking
know.
about. That fits it very well.
Good.
That's why I amended it a little. I patterned it to fit your reply. I was paying attention to you.
When, as an architect, you prefer sculpture to painting? As an architect?
Nice socks too, Philip. Those are little Armani's too,
All
aren't
good
they?
Armani.
As an architect, do you prefer sculpture to painting? Does that work? Did that work?
I think it was fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, I think we're to put it back on
This is
your.
what-
No, I was gonna say one more thing.
One more question.
No, two things, I'm sorry. Just say, I don't know if you can say it again, tell me about the Martini twins, because you changed completely. Like,
See what inspired that. Oh, Lincoln Kirsten. We were talking about Lincoln Kirsten as a patron. And we were talking about the bookends at the New York State Theater on either side of the promenade. And in this room are a lovely pair of girls that you've referred to as the Martini twins. How did they get here, and what relevance do they have to the sculpture at the promenade at the New York State Theater?
It's so different. Does it go on all right?
No, that's why I did it, because doesn't that now go to his...
I would say just also one time, just very simply, tell me about the Martini twin.
yeah, because in fact, it was a jump from, you were talking about David Whitney, and you
Yeah,
just
you weren't
jumped.
drunk. It came out of the blue.
Out of the blue. Why are they called the Martini twins? Can you tell us about them?
Okay.
That fit all right?
She still doesn't have her jacket on. Did you intend for the glass house to be a symbol of the international style?
Did you intend to... Did you...
Are you going to stay on these tighter shots?
You can go wider now.
I want to move this up a little bit.
Patient.
So are you. You're a real star, Philip. Did you intend for the glass house to be a symbol of the international style?
Convince me.
I'm sorry, one more about that. What was it in the 1930s which attracted you to the international style?
I think I said what first attracted you, wasn't it? That was a great answer. I like that so much. What was it in the 1930s that first attracted you to the international style?
Okay, jacket, please.
Okay, I'm rolling.
Would it be fair to say...
But you weren't quite looking at me.
Would it be fair to say that the glass house and the estate is a Baedeker to your architectural musings over a 50-year period?
Very good question.
Can I ask you to say it one more time?
This is half covered by one of these columns. It should either be all out or...
No.
You want it...
Okay. Can you just say a Baedeker, a guidebook?
You know this drives me crazy on granite,
It's not granite, marble.
on marble surfaces. Would it be fair to say that the glass house, that this estate could be considered a Baedeker or a guidebook to your architectural musings over the last 50 years?
Get it?
We got it.
Okay. Okay.
Eat.
Would it be fair to say that EAT is on our mind? Would it be fair to say that the promise of what they serve us is not going to be as good as our musings over the last
Sorry.
20
50 years.
minutes?
Do you have a television set here? Because you had your jacket on. Do you have a television set?
Do you have a television set here, Philip?
There is? I don't think so.
No, you don't like
We just need it one
television.
more time just because of the way it goes.
Do you have a television set here, Philip?
I didn't know you were on camera.
Sorry, one more. What is your vision of the ideal natural landscape?
We had a good answer that it was unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision of the ideal natural landscape?
Wonderful question.
The only thing I would say, should we have the very first question with people?
What was it?
Why become an architect yourself? But
Sure. That's a good one. A good answer. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide?
I know what it is. We never talked about Robert A.M. Stern.
That's good.
You think about the things you didn't talk about, you talk about them when you're walking. Like when you go to.
There's hardly, you see these questions? I asked every one of them except about two. Or a version of them. You want any here? We had them before, you're quite right. Grew up, a post office on one end, church on the other, and so on. Why, in the midst of a successful career as an architectural historian, as a noted curator at the Museum of Modern Art, a chronicler of architectural styles and other people's work, did you decide to give that all up and go to architecture school yourself?
Nice.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Very euphoric. And I would be euphoric if we could get this moving. Okay, guys.
What am I doing?
Actually, the question is,
I don't know.
what are you doing in the kitchen?
Exactly. This isn't my dish of tea.
This isn't your dish of tea?
No, I
Have you
haven't.
ever stood behind that counter to do anything other than
Oh.
getting a glass of water?
No, I make breakfast.
Yes.
And I make dinners with, as long as it's just scrambled eggs. Or boiled eggs or something really simple. Or salad. Oh yeah, this is salad bar, see? And I know how to turn on the stove, which I usually leave on.
I was going to say, I do know how to turn it off.
Fury of a few other people around here.
You know what?
But I
No
know
one
where
ever
everything
comments about, Philip,
What?
is how easy it is to maintain this house.
There, you see, that's so stupid. I'd have no servants at all.
I can hardly hear you. No one ever comments about how easy it is to maintain this house.
You'd think they would, wouldn't you? I mean, since that's the obvious thing here, that it's the easiest maintained house in the world. And you can't hurt the floor. You let all the rain in, you spill all the drinks. Nothing happens. Just mop it up.
Is it equally true? Could you say that? Excuse me. We're going this way.
Okay.
Is it equally true about the living area here?
Oh yes, everything's the same. You just,
This is the marble table that you've designed.
that's a marble table. These are Mies van der Rohe chairs.
And in the 40 years that you have them, you've only reupholstered them once?
Once. Same with that.
Either you have tidy guests or they all stand up.
I have tidy guests and I give them hell if they do anything wrong. I mean, if they smoke a cigarette, God help them.
Have you always had that view?
Always. It's left over from the days when people did know how to smoke.
Now, the only, is that a malachite box?
Malachite box.
How did that get there? You just like the material?
I like the material. I bought it. Put it there.
Now, to give an idea of your architectural sense about everything, who stacks the wood that way?
The man does. That takes care of my place.
But look how beautifully done. You obviously had to
I
show him
instructed it.
this design.
That's not fair.
The horizontals have the bark facing outward.
Yes, sir.
The verticals have the innards.
Innards.
Yes. It's a little
So it goes.
construction.
So it goes.
May I go with you to the boudoir?
You may, but one at a time because it's a narrow place here, as it should be.
Oh, this is a wonderful view.
And here I let people put down things on the leather. I don't on the glass.
At what time do you
This
get
is
up
where
in
I
the
sleep.
morning?
I get up when it gets sunny, 6, 7.
Excuse me, I just want to fix
That's
this
the
bed.
trouble. You see, there's one, I know there was a catch. There's always a catch, isn't there? I find that sitting down on the bed, which you've noticed,
Pushes
I
it
did,
up.
the phone. See, that's a no-no, because you shouldn't sit on a counterpane.
Very good
You
training,
see?
early
Very training,
childhood
but-
training.
But some people do, because how are you going to phone
I didn't sit
otherwise?
there, I
No,
stood when I talked.
I do too, but a lot of people don't.
And these are the cupboards?
This is my cabinets, and I don't know whether I can open them or not, because you know,
This is dangerous.
very dangerous.
Dare we?
I don't know, let's try.
Oh, just as you'd expect. Everything's so orderly, very orderly.
Then here-
Where is the toilet?
The toilet is here in the cylinder.
In this cylinder.
Sure, I put the cylinder here on purpose for everything. In fact, I had the early drawings show the cylinder, and I had the kitchen in there too, in half of it. But instead of having it all in one cylinder, I took the kitchen out. See, it's just much nicer to have it right where you live. It's perfect nonsense that you have to have a kitchen away from where you live. Realize that nowadays you cook where you are and where you talk.
Isn't that a better idea?
Of course it is. So I
Are all of these materials original here?
No, this was leather like the ceiling, but the leather, of course, was no use practically. So I
And you
took
have a
this-
shower in the same room as a leather ceiling, and that moisture doesn't ruin the leather?
No, not on the ceiling, it did on the walls.
These walls were leather?
These walls were leather, and they came off.
Because of all the moisture.
Sure.
When did you change to the tiny little tiles?
In the 50s.
So it was an
Yeah.
early change?
Yeah, I copied, the floor was that way anyhow.
And then you just replicated it
That's
on
right.
the walls?
That's right.
But I was thinking with a leather ceiling that
No.
shower might really be another
did
piece
too.
of sculpture.
I did too.
An
but
early
instead of that-
Gober.
Early Gober, that's right. And Frank Lloyd Wright and I had a big argument about the lights, because he says you cannot have lights like that. And I said, well, then why do all theater people
Why did he
use
think
them?
you couldn't do
He said,
that?
Philip, you have to have a light over your head. And I said, that's the worst place, because you want to light your face,
Mm-hmm.
not the top of your head.
I think it's very good how you put that grid in on the diagonal
Well, I
with the
followed
ceiling, yes.
Well, but on a permanent with the house, see, this door is 45 degrees, but the house is rectilinear. It's the beginning of my system over at the gallery.
That
sculpture-
1, 3,
sculpture
5, 8,
gallery.
13.
No, not that. This is the idea of using things at diagonals.
Oh,
Based them on a 45, which I did up at the...
do you think the circular pool works as well
Oh, much better. Wonderful, because if you're not a swimmer, I'm not.
in
I,
indoor sport?
Indoor sports only. I like to swim across it, and it's 30
What's
feet.
the 30 feet and what's the maximum depth?
7.
That's enough, more than enough.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people
5
dive.
is enough.
If you're one of those courageous outside types, you dive.
But it's very good on axis with this cylindrical form.
Oh, I never thought of that. There's no axis, but it's...
Well, isn't it?
No, very carefully. Not on axis with anything.
But it is the same form.
Well,
Circle,
circle is
yes.
pretty
Universal
normal
form. What
Euclidean
made you
form.
use these, this material, these concrete?
granite?
Granite,
Bars, because I like granite. Of course, the architects get very supercilious and say, don't you know that you can't use granite in tension? Why not?
well, there it is.
Sure. Well, China, you know, in those paths that go across, paths that zig and zag across a little pool, they're all granite. So it works fine.
Now, all of these fields have been cleared during the course of the last 50
This
years.
was solid, was the whole
Really?
thing was just like what you see through there. See? Solid. You couldn't walk
Here's your
3
next
feet.
project.
Yeah,
And
this
you
is,
call an octopus that also looks a little bit like a ghost.
it is a ghost. That's right. Much more like
Another
a
ghost house.
Much better as a ghost than as a...
Actually, it's a very benign, cheerful
Oh,
ghost.
my God.
Friendly
It is
ghost.
Very friendly.
And there's the Philippe's dark lamp.
Well, I have, this table is a history of the place.
Why
The
don't you tell us?
The table itself is Mies van der Rohe. This is an old Ohio thing from my ancestral home in Ohio.
It
sometime
looks
in the
shaker
18
almost,
Well, it is the idea, except it's Ohio because it's,
the wood.
yeah, they don't have wood like that in the
What's
East.
inside? Is it a paper box?
Let's not worry too much about
All
it.
right.
We have some secret places.
Then you
This
have-
is, I have Stark, which is violently anti-Mies van der Rohe. It turns off very funny way. That's off now, see, and that's on. And then I have the very latest creation by Philip Johnson here. So I've got a mixed styles are all on this, basically Miesian stern cable.
How did you first acquire the box from
I
your
lived-
ancestral
I
home?
inherited from my family. It was in the family house, I just took it.
Did you like it because of its austerity?
Austerity. I took it because it was modern. I was very gung-ho modern in those days, in the 30s. So there was this on the, so I said, well, I've got to have something from the old home. sun has not been kind to it.
Is that the only thing that you have?
It's the only thing.
Except replicating this whole place
No,
in its honor.
All I did there was the shelf, you know, and looking out over a handmade pond. I cut a pond just about where it is on our country place.
Did you do that, if I recall, from about 1959 to 62?
That's right. What a memory. Yeah. And then in 62, I built a little pavilion, underscale pavilion, which we'll go and visit some other time. Because today is not the day.
Shall we go outside?
And this is where I...
Oh, excuse me.
Where do you want to go next? Anywhere?
And right from this, when I came today, you were sitting and reading, catching up on the Times Literary
Supplement. I keep them hidden here.
In one closet is probably filled with back issues. Oh, your library.
Oh, it's come down
Excellent.
a little bit, yeah. No, this is the
You are
current
neat.
library. I get books sent to me or I buy them.
Yes.
And that's I'm going to read. So I put it there.
Well, then you're all up to date, according to
But
this.
usually this is up to here. But for your coming,
Yes.
I said it can't look like that. You see. And then this
So
is
what
all
have you
my
put
shoes.
away that we should know about?
Oh, they're all in the other house. But
I noticed the library there.
Well,
So walking from this study and work area,
and I don't work there. That's for looks. It's nice to have a table, but it doesn't
Yes.
make any sense. And I sleep here when I'm not sleeping in the other house.
how often do you sleep here?
Well, it's hard to say. In the summertime, I sleep here a lot.
It must be beautiful both in the summer and the winter.
Oh, it's especially nice at night when what's the best is when the fog comes up, as it does in many days, up from there and stops about here. So it looks like a Chinese painting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, the Chinese paintings with fog over the low parts. It's just marvelous.
You don't have any curtains on any of these windows
Well, I did
here.
have. I had them.
On
did
the tracks,
are everywhere.
yes.
But I don't like curtains. Are denial of the glass house.
So that you go to bed late enough for it to be dark, and you arise early enough for it to be light.
No, I sleep right through.
By now you're inured to the
Oh,
changes.
yes. That's wonderful. The best time is to wake in the middle of the night on a moonlight night.
Ooh, that is
And
good.
little animals. Little, nothing evil, but you know, the little
Yes.
hedgehog or something.
Excuse me, you know that the light... Have another roll. Yes, I come well prepared.
Why do you collect a lot of pictures? Such a bore taking pictures of myself.
And I'm not going to send you one.
Send me a reminiscence of our visit.
Against my wishes, because there are still, big trucks coming in and out of there, and I'm sure it's going to dent the hell out of it. How about taking some nice stills, too?
They can't take stills with that
She
camera.
can, with my nice little
Oh, she
camera
can.
there.
That's right.
Now, this is...
Now we're going up to the two galleries. See, that's the painting gallery, and that's the sculpture gallery.
And what is it that's outside of the sculpture gallery?
That's a Schnabel, my favorite new artist. A big Schnabel.
Okay, you lead the way.
I lead the way, I'll just haul you along. That's what I'll do.
You may have to.
And let it start pouring, and then I'll
Oh,
lift up the umbrella to protect you.
You know, I once went to see Henry Moore at Much Haddam,
Oh, yeah, so did I.
and it was the rainiest
Oh, but
day
it always rains
imaginable.
in England.
And he was then about 96 or so,
my God.
94, and it was freezing and cold and rainy. He
Oh.
picked up the umbrella and said, "Let's go outside." Well, of course, I didn't want
You
to.
didn't want to, but you had to.
Had to.
Sure.
And there he was. Never stopped.
No, he's wonderful. Hop like a grasshopper.
That's another foundation that has a mess, apparently.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What a shame.
I think they need better lawyers.
I remember Blanchette once told me how she was advisor to the Ford Foundation when they set it up.
Really?
She said, these people have no idea how hard it is to manage this kind of money.
And to give away money.
And to
It's
give
not
away
easy.
money is one of the hardest things in the world. And they just take it, oh, well, we'll build a headquarters. Build a headquarters, that's the last thing you need, you know.
Whoops.
She gave him hell.
You know, one of the things that David Rockefeller said the night of the dinner of the emperor was very interesting. That his parents had first gone to Japan in 1921.
Was this private talk with you? Or?
No, he said it publicly.
Oh my goodness.
There were, like 100 people there.
Yeah.
And Blanchette and John, his brother, really thought of Japan as their second home.
Yes.
I never realized that. This is pretty.
Here's another mistake.
What is?
That glimpse through to the other house that I don't have.
Where?
The neighbor's house, just to the right.
Oh,
of
I didn't see that
the,
yet.
yeah.
How'd
You're
the-
not supposed to
How'd
see
that
it.
guy get there? How come you didn't plant bamboo
Exactly.
and screen them out?
I planted it, died.
And, really?
Well, I'm going to plant something else, but
How dare he do
we're
that?
just in between. Well, he owns that land.
How dare he do that?
Terrible insult. This is one of my great successes.
These
This
ferns.
Ostrich palms, ostrich ferns.
This
I
is
planted,
nice too.
I planted 6. And it's all taken over the whole
Well, there's no
valley.
choice. One of my great levelers was I wanted to remove fern.
Of course.
And I spent a lot of time. And the next thing I knew, it sort of looked like this. But I've learned to love them.
That's the only way to do it.
But there is no plant, no matter how familiar, in nature, if one looks at it with fresh eyes,
That's right.
that doesn't have a beauty of its
That's
own.
right. That's right.
What are we looking at up there, Philip?
That is the painting gallery, which I didn't want to have any windows. I was a good Alfred Barr boy, and artificial light was much better, and much better, of course, for air conditioning.
Certainly better for the works of art.
Oh, that's what I mean.
Yes.
Oh, the other house doesn't have any pictures that can hurt.
Is that a house or a trailer?
That other one, that's Elliot Noyes, the famous architect.
That is Elliot Noyes.
Yeah. But you see, I can cover it up.
Yes, I think we have to do that in a hurry. It really offends and
Well, I
intrudes
planted a
there.
small tree last year because it won't grow in time, so I have to
You
plant
need a
it.
jungle to cover that up.
That's right. But there
Did you
know.
plant any of these large trees?
Oh, I planted them all.
Everything.
Oh, yeah.
Everything that we're looking at.
Well, I had an air conditioning machine
Under there?
out there, so I covered it all up in pines.
In a
And
big
the
way.
street, there's a street just beyond there. See?
One has no sense of either the roadway or
No,
the
one isn't
traffic.
supposed to.
Yes. How many people do you think can come here at any given time?
They're going to have 20, but they might, they trust.
Which way are we
It's to
going?
allow- We're going to see the sculpture gallery first, and then we'll come back. Look at the painting
When
gallery.
did you, do you hear me? When did you acquire the Schnabel?
Schnabel, I bought it